There once stood a village in the middle of the valley. It was luscious and green, full of meadow and beautiful scented flowers and butterflies and bees buzzing around in the summer, and the deep, sparkly snow in the winter. It was abundant with life, for just around it there stood tall, big, protective mountains, and a big lake lied on one of the sides. And so that village came to be very prosperous, and it was everywhere known as a water village. A crystal water village, to be precise, for you see, it was abundant with waters. The waters came down as streams or as waterfalls from the glaciers and the mountains. The snow would melt, leaving crystal clear water to nourish the lands and earth and soil, and the lake was see-through at the deepest point in the middle of it, where all the life could be observed underneath it, all the fishes and crabs and seaweed stretching and gently moving in the water. And so all the villagers came to appreciate the water that was coming their way, for the water also brought fertility to their lands, and they were also known as a village of abundance. They were never short on vegetables or fruits, the most exquisite and different ones, and often they would even share some of it with other villages that were not so lucky to be in such a great position and be so gently carried and blessed by waters. And the villagers knew of their luck, so through generations they grew gardens and flowers to show their love and appreciation to the water. When summer showers would come, all the seeds that the villagers put in the ground would come out, stretch out and bloom and blossom, and the whole valley would come to life with the exuberance of colors, the rainbow of them, inviting all the other creatures to come and call it home for the season. It was buzzing with life and sound and majestic divine scents. The grape vines stretched all the way to the mountains, leaving grape there for them. And nobody ever went hungry there. Everyone had abundance. For everyone in that village and the village itself had a blessing of water. People sang songs to it, and as they would pull water out of the wells to drink it, you would feel the strength and energy that would come of it. It glistened like finest of crystals. And people would sing songs and dance and bow in respect to this life-given form. And as they looked after water, water looked after them. But time has passed, and soon many came to see it as a given. The rains came, the waters came, and the abundance came. And as some of the elders moved into the mountains, for there was no more place for them in the village among the youth, the young ones forgot the ways of the old ones. And instead of singing songs and dancing to the waters, they sat or talked or turn their faces and heads away and heed when the summer rains and spring showers would come. And soon there was not a single song to be heard when the water arrived. They stopped going to the lake and bath in it. They'd seldom go and clear its shores or swim to the middle and look down with their head down at what's happening in this world. And so one day, to their surprise, an expected summer rain did not arrive. Neither did it come on the day after, or the day after that. And soon the winds started to take the topsoil and moving it away, and many seeds scattered away that way. It was becoming drier and drier, and more heat would arrive from the sun, but not water, not a single drop. And suddenly, everyone came out from their huts and houses, and everyone got very concerned of what has happened to the water, for once the abundance was no longer there. For once, no bee would buzz nearby and no flowers flourished. No fruit or vegetables grew. It was dry and barren everywhere. And soon the wells dried out too. There was no water there. And so the villagers called a council. They all came together in the middle of the village by the drying out tree, and they sat underneath it in a circle. So, brothers and sisters, what are we to do? There is no rain, there is no water, it has abandoned us, it has left us. How dare it, this is unfair, shouted the villagers. And so many of them got so angry and frustrated, feeling entitled that the water just had to arrive, that it was a given that it comes. And as they were shouting there, a little girl that came there with her parents looked to the side, to the mountains, and to the places where once waterfalls felt, and that now were dry. She touched the ground that she always knew to be luscious and alive, but now it was scratching her hand with the dryness. She looked to the lake that receded back, leaving the dry shore and rocks. And everything seemed so sad around her that her head dropped down and the tear rolled from her eyes. It rolled down, and as it reached her cheek, it dropped all the way to the small crack in the earth where she sat near. And it went low and low underneath it, all the way to the deep earth where the water dragon was sleeping. It hit the dragon right on the nose. The dragon stretched and moved and opened his eyes. Oh, that was a marvelous sleep. who is calling me, the dragon thought. You see, over time, he knew how to come and how to bring waters. It was his job to do so. The dragon would fly, inviting the winds and inviting all the other forces to come and form and move water upon the surface of the earth. And long the dragon was revered and loved in the valley by the elders and all the old ones that no longer were here. The songs would always reach the dragon and wake him up in the summer, and the dancing would massage his back as he would feel it through the earth, as the villagers would stomp and dance and jump, and their laughter would always arrive into his ears as a gentle murmur. He loved it, waking up like this, so softly, so gently. And every time he'd wiggle and almost want to join in with the dance. He'd come up from deep within the earth and rising all the ground waters with him, so the wells would fill in with water. And as he'd go higher, he'd bring in the clouds to bring in the rains. He'd circle around the lake that they had, and as a whirlpool, it will swish around and expand with gentle waves coming to the shore. But this year, the dragon didn't wake up in time, for that has been a long time now, when nobody would massage his back, and no songs would arrive into his ears, no laughter was present. And so, first the dragon would wake up because he got used to it, and he thought maybe if he comes and people see what is done, they will start singing again. But they didn't. And so this year he just didn't wake up until that little tear touched him. And it felt very different this time around. Some sadness came with it, but also naivety and love and longing. It felt so much deeper to him. Somebody was calling him this time. Somebody was calling him to rise up. And so slowly he came to the entrance and the exit from the deep earth and stretched his wings and rose. The fountains rose from within the earth, splashing all the villages with water. The wells filled up with it again. And feeling that they did their best, and that somehow their anger is what brought the water forward, satisfied, they all left. But the little girl stayed. She was so full of joy seeing the fountain that she jumped with it and started hugging it, with water escaping through her arms and hands, and she started to laugh. And the water was playing with her, jumping left when she was right and right when she was left. And soon, so wet and dripping with water, she just sat down and fell down in front of it, straight in the dirty mud, and laughed and laughed and laughed. So much joy the water brought to her. And Dragon saw it. He whistled and the girl looked up. A dragon! A dragon! There is a dragon here! She screamed. The dragon winked at her from far above and started moving forward, inviting her with his tail. She stretched her arms and hands and grabbed the edge of his tail. It was very pointy and so fluid, as if she was touching the air. It's the same as when you put your hand in the stream of water and it pulls you, but there is nothing to hold on, and yet you feel the strength of it. That's how it felt to her. And she held on with her both hands. And the dragon twisted his tail and moved it up. So she flipped in the air and landed straight on his back. "Hold on, dear one," he said. "Hold on." And so she did, clutching to his neck where she could, and looking around at the valley that they were above, at the mountains, at the trees and the lusciousness that existed outside of those mountains, and the lake, and the beauty that she'd never seen before, not like that, only in her dreams. And the dragon flew higher and higher, and soon they reached one of the clouds, and he landed there to rest. The girl came down and sat down by him as well. "Thank you," he said. "Thank you, dear one, for your tear and your hope awoke me, and I brought the waters. Thank you." The girl hugged the dragon and kissed him on the cheek. "Thank you," she said. "Thank you." And they sat there long. And he taught her the songs of the old ones. He showed her the dances that massage his back, the whispers and laughter that awakens him. And she learned it all from him. And years might have passed, for when they returned, a girl was a fine woman. And as they landed on the land at the village, all the villagers came out, and instantly they recognized the power in her. She knew the ways of the water. For while they were learning, there were a few other summers that were dry, and as the girl's feet touched the ground, the waters came back. "There is no big mystery here," she said. "I'll teach you." And so she passed on all the songs and all the dances that the water dragon taught her. So once again they will be alive. "You see," she said, "the water doesn't just rise on its own. It rises because we ask it to. Because we sing a song that awakens the water dragon. Because our feet and our dances massage his back, allowing him to fly high. And because our laughter and joy wakes him up." And so, as everyone learned how to dance and how to sing, and as they learned that it's up to them to invite the water, they have never forgotten a single song ever again. They remembered the road to the old ones and the elders, and they would bring water to the place in the mountain for where they were buried, to show and tell them that they still had the same abundance, that they still knew and held dear the ways that they had, but now also had new ones, for the new songs and the new dances have emerged. For their relationship with Dragon also became closer and more connected. And the more they danced and sang, the more songs and dances arrived back. And so they lived ever happily with the abundance of water and joy and fertility. And no one ever went hungry. No land ever was dry again. Thank you.